Join us at Walters on Friday, October 4th for our end-of-season podcast party. The evening is scheduled from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Irvin winds and fires, and a swing and a long drive right field. Cruz back to the warning track, to the wall, and it's gone. Cubs lead 3-0. Homer number 21 for Bush, as he takes Irvin deep over the right field wall for the Cubs' second homer of the day. Now Irvin comes set, and he fires with the runner going, and it's a swing and a long drive left field. Wood can only watch it. It is long gone. Into the back of the bleachers. In straightaway left field, home run for Miguel Amaya, and it's 5-0 Chicago, his 8th of the season.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Monday, September 23rd, 2024, which is the final scheduled off day for the Nats in their 2024 season, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Wrigley Field in Chicago. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The Nats on Sunday concluded the road portion of their 2024 regular season, a 5-0 loss at the Chicago Cubs to lose the series 3-1. The Nats finish 33-48 on the road. Now are 69-87 overall. Must go at least 3-3 over their final 6 games in order to surpass last regular season's record of 71-91. This 5-0 loss at the Cubs on Sunday, a game for which the start was delayed for 2 hours and 20 minutes due to rain. This also was a game in which starting pitcher Jake Irvin had a bad start. And yes, this was a shutout loss for the Nats. Their 16th shutout loss this regular season. 16 of the Nats' 87 losses have been shutout losses, 18.4%. This was an eventful weekend in Chicago for the Nats for many reasons. But Mark, Sunday ended up being a bad day in a variety of ways for the Nats.
Well, and a bad conclusion to a bad road trip, Al. For them to go just 1-6 on the trip, to be held to 0 or 1 run in 5 of the 7 games is a problem, obviously. And that's before we even get to anything that happened off the field and the C.J. Abrams issue on Saturday. And in this one, I mean, it never felt like they were in this game. Jake Irvin gave up an early home run. They did not hit. They gave up a couple more home runs, and it just felt like they were going through the motions the rest of the way. And I get it. It's a long week, a long delay, waiting for a game to be played that had no actual meaning for either team since they're both eliminated. But boy, there just wasn't a whole lot in this game to get even remotely excited about. And this at the end of a week in which there really wasn't a whole lot to be excited about from the way they played.
We wish we had a happier result to announce this very happy news that we're about to announce, but we are happy to say that the Nats Chat podcast will be back for a 5th season. That decision has been made by the man who runs the podcast, Tim Shover. So multiple significant decisions happening over the weekend. The Nats deciding to option C.J. Abrams to AAA Rochester, and Shover's deciding on the Nats Chat podcast being back for a 5th season. But we're thrilled about that. We're very appreciative of that. And we thank everyone who listens, who downloads, who subscribes, who likes the podcast, who rates and reviews the podcast. We always appreciate spreading the podcast by word of mouth. This is, very much a grassroots effort. And we have a lot of fun doing this. And we're very happy that enough of you like it to where we can continue to do this. So thank you very much. And with that as a backdrop, we send you now to this from Tim Shovers.
Thanks, Al. Tim Shovers, producer and founder of the podcast here. We are indeed thrilled to announce we'll be back for a 5th season in 2025. We've been around for a while now. Began back in February of 2021, so long ago that Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg were active members of the starting rotation. This is the only time of year which I do this, but a reminder, it is a long season. They play 162 games, 162 plus episodes. If you could help out the podcast heading into the winter as we gear up for the spring, that would be much appreciated. It's real simple. Just go to natschatpodcast.com, click on merch, and then you'll see the donation page right there. You can enter a custom amount or have set amounts. Any amount that you give is appreciated in helping of the podcast. Again, one more time, natschatpodcast.com, click on merch, and then you'll be able to go to the donation page. If you have any questions, just send us an email, natschatpodcast @gmail.com. Last thing, podcast party, Walters, Friday night, October 4th at 6:30 till about 8:30. We've done these the past few years. The numbers have grown each year. We hope to have our biggest crowd yet. Would love to see you down there. Mark will be there. Al will be there, hanging out, talking baseball, watching baseball. There'll be football on. Walters is the perfect sports bar to hang out with friends and just kick back and have a good time. Would love to see you there. Again, Friday, October 4th, Walter Sports Bar at 6:30. Now back to Al.
All right, so let us get back to the matter at hand. 5-0 Nats loss at the Chicago Cubs on Sunday. And Jake Irvin, boy, it has been an up and down last few weeks for Jake Irvin. He on Sunday was bad for the first time in 3 starts, but he on Sunday also allowed at least 4 earned runs for an 8th time in 14 starts. So you can kind of frame what's been happening with Irvin however you like. Overall, more good than bad this season, but post-All-Star break has been very different than pre-All-Star break. Irvin on Sunday, 5 runs in 4 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were 3 home runs and a single. He issued 4 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He over his 4 innings threw 83 pitches, 48 strikes versus 35 balls. We have noted how much better Nats pitchers have been this season at not allowing the home run. Well, this may surprise some people, but Jake Irvin for this regular season now is tied for having allowed the 5th most home runs in the majors, 29 home runs allowed. Like I said, I think he's been more good than bad this season, but that has perhaps snuck up on some people. He has given up some homers. He gave up 3 big ones in this game.
Yeah, I feel like this has been happening more in the second half than probably it did in the first half. And for all the good that a lot of the other guys in the rotation have done at eliminating that problem, it has been more of an issue for him. I think it's also really one of the only issues for him. He doesn't give up a lot of other hits that score runs. And so usually when he has a bad game, there are multiple home runs involved and maybe some walks as well, which was the case in this one. What I thought was interesting, he talked to us afterwards and he basically admitted that the long rain delay, that he didn't handle it well, that his preparation for the start was not up to what he thought it should be. And he said not mentally, he didn't really go into details about what it was, but he took the mound and said he just didn't feel like the way that he should have. You could kind of see a lot of the pitches were up in the zone. He was falling behind in the count, gave up the quick home run to the first batter and was fighting it to try to rediscover it along the way. So I think he's talking more mechanics than anything. And I don't know if he just didn't warm up the way he normally would, or if he just didn't keep himself engaged for those 2 hours and 20 minutes as he was waiting it out. But, you know, an admission from him that he didn't handle the rain delay as well as he could have, and at least ascribes some of that to his performance in this game.
That's interesting. So it was a lengthy rain delay. Thankfully, this was not a circumstance in which the game started and then soon was halted and then was resumed like hours later. But 2-hour, 20-minute delay to the start of the game. What does a starting pitcher who is supposed to start do during a rain delay? I bet people would be interested in that. Like if you're Irvin and you know you're going to pitch, but you're not sure when, how does a guy like that pass the time?
It really depends a lot on when they make the announcement and how far along in your routine have you gotten before they announced it. And the announcement came pretty early. It was like 45 minutes before scheduled first pitch that they announced it would be delayed. So he had not come out to the field and started any of his routine. And ideally, that's the way you want to have it done. If that part has started, it gets a lot trickier because now your body is warm and you need to find a way to keep it warm without burning everything up. So I think in this case, it's really more mental than anything. Starting pitchers have their very specific routine for game days, and they know what time they get to the ballpark. And this number of hours beforehand, they start looking at the lineup. And at this point, they start going through their training room stuff and massage therapy or whatever else they do to get their bodies ready. So they all have that kind of down to a science, and they know, okay, this X number of minutes before the game, I got to do this. Now, I don't know his exact routine, but I would guess he had gone through some of that behind the scenes stuff first. Now you got to shut it down and basically hang out in the clubhouse, but keep yourself mentally engaged. Other guys are, I'm sure, watching football on a Sunday. If you're the starting pitcher, you kind of have to stay engaged, but you can't burn up too much of that mental energy either because you'll wear yourself out and not knowing how long it's going to be. It didn't help that we really didn't know how long this was going to be. There was a thought that the game might not start till 6 o'clock, given how bad the forecast was. So I think it's all of that essentially is the biggest issue from his standpoint. And they gave enough advance notice to when the first pitch would be that I think he had enough time to do the physical things he needed to do. But my guess is just from a preparation standpoint, it can be tough to stay engaged while not burning up too much energy as you wait this out and when you don't have an exact target of when you're trying to get ready. So look, everybody has to deal with it at some point. It's not the first time he's dealt with it before, but it is a challenge. And I thought it was interesting that he, actually admitted that it was a problem for him in this game.
I would imagine it is annoying as much as anything if you're a starting pitcher, right? We know these guys are like fanatical about their routines. And so for the routine to be thrown off by that much, 2 hours, 20 minutes, I could see in Irvin and many other starting pitchers getting annoyed, getting perturbed at, not having everything just right on the day on which they're making a start. But like you said, this is part of the business and you have to be able to acclimate and adjust. And, you can't be thrown off by something like that. And, I guess good for him for owning up to that. But I would think that that's something that you need to mature into of, okay, there's an obstacle here. There's a delay. I can overcome that. Let's go do it.
And for the record, Shoto Imanaga, who dealt with the exact same conditions as Jake Irvin, did not appear to be affected by it at all because he was fantastic for 7 innings in this game.
Yeah, years ago, I remember Steven Strasburg talking to reporters and using a phrase that sounded like something that perhaps a sports psychologist had told him, because it was quite a phrase, but I thought it was a very good phrase. And it seemed apropos to some of the things that had come up with Strasburg, to where when he would get thrown off, he would be like all out of sorts. And the phrase was relentless regardless of circumstance. And I thought that was a really good phrase. And I feel like that's a phrase that all pitchers should apply to what they do. Relentless regardless of circumstance. Don't let circumstance throw you off the way that apparently it did with Jake Irvin in this game. Hey, Al Galdi here to tell you about the latest great offer from Window Nation for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. We are into September. Colder weather is coming. Now is a great time to replace your old inefficient windows with energy-efficient windows from Window Nation. Get a free, no-obligation quote now. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. Window Nation is the best. Window Nation can install your new windows in a day or less, and Window Nation's windows come with a lifetime warranty. With proven quality and service, it's no wonder that thousands of homeowners have trusted Window Nation for years. And take advantage of the great offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Hey, Nats Chat, want to tell you about Mint Mobile's premium wireless package starting at $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/natschat. That's mintmobile.com/natschat. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/natschat. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigs on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Now, here's the set of the pitch. Swinging a ground ball. Sprawling stop by the third baseman. Paredes up and throwing in time. And the game is over. And the Cubs have taken 3 of 4 for the Nationals and win the season series, going away 6 games to 1.
So this could have been like a really ugly Nats loss. I mean, not that this was like a nice loss, 5-0, but the Nats bullpen in this game actually did a really good job. Jake Irvin was not good, did not last for long, but 4 Nats relievers combined for 4 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts. Jacob Barnes scoreless bottom of the 5th, despite issuing a leadoff walk and giving up a 2-out double. Tanner Rainey scoreless bottom of the 6th, despite giving up a 2-out double. Eduardo Salazar scoreless bottom of the 7th, despite giving up a 1-out single. Joe LaSorsa perfect bottom of the 8th with 2 swinging strikeouts. This was not the A bullpen, and yet this version of the bullpen, I thought actually did a pretty good job in this game.
Yeah, they gave him a chance for sure. There were a couple of runners in scoring position, but they got out of that without too much trouble. It was yet another low leverage situation for Tanner Rainey, and he put up another 0, and we're running out of time here, but I would still love to see him pitch in a situation of more consequence, because I think at this point he's proven that he can be effective when there are 0 stakes out there, when they trail by 4 or 5+ runs. Let's see how he does in, let's say, a 1-run game, for example. What's the worst thing that could happen at this point? So it's been great to see him do this, but until he does it in a situation that means a little bit, at least, it's hard to get too excited by it because you just don't know.
Here's something odd about this 5-0 Nats loss at the Cubs on Sunday. The Nats out-hit the Cubs 8-7 and yet lost 5-0. That tells you something about the value of the homer. The Nats in this game out-homered by the Cubs 3-0. The Nats in this game, 8 hits, like I said, 2 doubles to go with 6 singles. 2 Nats each had 2 hits. James Wood went 2 for 4 with a double and a single, and Jose Tena went 2 for 4 with a couple of singles. But beyond that, just not a lot happening for the Nats offensively. No walks in this game, 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position in this game. Imanaga, 7 scoreless innings, 4 strikeouts, no walks, 94 pitches, 67 strikes versus just 27 balls. The Nats, with the exceptions of the Thursday night game and also the Saturday game, not much happening in games 2 and 4 in this series offensively.
No, and as I said, 5 out of 7 games on the road trip, they're held to 1 run or none. That's a problem, and this has been a recurring issue for them all year, as we know. And look, the lineup they put out there on Sunday is not the best version of the Nationals lineup. C.J. Abrams, obviously, is not here. Right now, Luis Garcia was still banged up. He did come in to pinch hit later on, so he's not in there. They're facing the lefty. But I mean, you have Trey Lipscomb getting the start at third base. You have Nasim Nunez getting the start at shortstop. You have a 3-4 of Yepes and Chaparro. This is not their best foot forward that they're putting there, but they did have opportunities, as you said, and to see some of the at-bats with runners in scoring position, yet again being an issue for them, where they are almost always hitting the ball into the ground in those spots. You get a leadoff double from James Wood in the 4th. In theory, the heart of your lineup. And what do? Ground out to third, strikeout, looking unproductive outs with a chance to get a guy home from second. You had a couple on in the 8th. It didn't happen there either for them. And Davey brought it up again after the game. This whole idea of, especially the young hitters, when you come up there and you've got a guy in scoring position, you have a chance to do something big. You got to mentally understand that the pressure is not on you, it's on the pitcher. And he still feels like too many of them are getting out of their element in those spots. They expand the zone. They try to do too much to drive in those runs, understanding these are the biggest at-bats of the games. And the best to do it will tell you that that's the wrong approach. You have to take what you're given. You have to treat the pitcher like he's the one in trouble, not yourself. And it's just something you have to learn over time. You hope they do. They don't all get that, of course. But this is, I think, a big step for a lot of their young guys, including Dylan Cruz, who is going through some stuff right now.
Yeah, let's talk about Dylan Cruz. Cruz in this game did have a hit, 1 for 4 with a single. He actually, per StatCast, had 3 of the Nats' top 5 exit velocities of the game. His single coming at the top of the 8th, a 1-out single into left center field on a 1-2 pitch. That single, per StatCast, exit velocity of 104.5 miles per hour. That was the Nats' 5th highest exit velocity of the game. But Dylan Cruz's OPS now at the major league level since he was promoted to the majors is under 600, 599. The slash line, batting average 204, on base percentage 262, slugging percentage 337. We've talked about this a few times in recent installments of the podcast. Nobody is arriving at any full definitive judgments of Dylan Cruz, but what he does matters. How he is doing is of utmost importance. And so you monitor it every step of the way. And it does stand out as the sample size is beginning to grow here a little bit. The performance is getting worse, not better, at least in terms of results. He is hitting balls hard. That is true. We give him credit for that. But man, an OPS under 600 at 100-plus major league regular season plate appearances, not what people were expecting.
Well, and this was an 0 for 19 slump that he was in until that single in the 8th. So I don't know his entire background in every year of every level that he's ever played baseball. I got to believe it's been a long time, if ever, that he went through an 0 for 19. And so this, to me, is, yeah, there's probably some mechanical elements to it and about his swing path and things like that. But to me, this is really more mental, and a young kid who's always been outstanding at everything he's done, having to understand how to fail for the first time and how to get through that. And so this is a challenge for him. He's only got a week left, and it's not like this week's going to make or break his future. Obviously, the sky's the limit with him, and he's going to come to camp next year, and he's clearly going to be a big part of the team, and they're starting one of their starting outfielders and batting high up in the lineup. But it'd be nice if he could get to a little bit of a good finish here and feel better about the numbers and just the way he feels at the plate. But this is, I'm sure, something that's very foreign territory for him. This is not a guy who's used to struggling at any level in any way. And it's happening now. And it happens to everybody at some point in the big leagues. And how you deal with that is really makes or breaks how you are as a big league hitter. And we've mentioned he doesn't get a lot of fastballs. It's a lot of off-speed stuff, breaking balls. He's going to have to learn how to lay off the ones that are not there for him and how to do damage the occasion that he does get something good to hit. And again, nobody's panicking. Nobody's that worried about it. But it is telling because this is just not somebody who's ever been in this position before.
If you are a fan of Vampire Weekend, then Game Time is your spot. They are performing at the Anthem on September 30th and October 1st, just after the Nats season wraps up. Game Time is proud of their ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. They also offer a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
What's up, everybody? It's Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart. I've got a podcast called Throwbacks with actor Jerry Ferrar, where we'll be talking all things sports, but also so much more. We'll give you the behind-the-scenes stories from my days as the quarterback on an iconic college football team to Jerry's days as a star on an iconic TV series. So subscribe to Throwbacks wherever you download your podcast and follow us on all social media at Throwback Show.
Irvin sets. Kicks, delivers, swinging a line drive into right center field. It's going to fall, a base hit. Rounding third, Swanson. He will score without a play. And with a solo homer, a walk, a steal, and a single, the Cubs lead 2-0.
James Wood, as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, 2 for 4, had a double and a single. He per Statcast had 2 of the Nats' top 4 exit velocities in the game. So, the Nats are done with the road portion of their season. Next up is a regular season concluding 6-game homestand, 6 games to go here. And they are against teams that are very much in playoff contention here. 3 games against the Kansas City Royals at Nationals Park, and then 3 games against the National League East leading Philadelphia Phillies. Game 1 against the Royals at Nationals Park, Tuesday evening, 6:45. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 against the Royals at Nationals Park, Wednesday evening, 6:45. DJ Hers will be the Nats starting pitcher. And Game 3 against the Royals at Nats Park, Thursday afternoon, 1:05. Patrick Corbin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Look, we don't sugarcoat things here on the podcast. The season is not ending in a good way. The Nats are losing a lot more than they are winning. There have been a lot of hapless losses, shutout losses, you score 1 run, those kinds of losses. And we had the really bad C.J. Abrams news on Saturday. I don't know how much it matters what the Nats do this week, but boy, you'd like for them to be at least decent this week because you'd hate for this season, which has had a lot of encouraging developments, to end in what would end up being a really negative way if this week does not go well. This has not been a good run here for the Nats. This has not been a good month of September.
Yeah, and to me, it's not even about what the final win total is. I mean, yes, you'd love for them to get to 72 somehow. That could be tough to go 3-3 against those teams at this point. I kind of felt like they had to win 2 out of 4 here in Chicago to make that happen. But really, more than anything, it's just about playing good competitive baseball. If you go all the way back to that first game in New York, the extra inning game that they lost 2-1. Yes, it was frustrating they lost. Yes, they had opportunities to win that game late. But people in New York who were watching them and hadn't maybe seen them a whole lot were very impressed with the effort, with the talent, the pitching. They played really good defense in that game. And that's the kind of loss that you look back on and say, okay, I can see how this team is on the rise and how they might not be that far away from competing. They're playing a team that's got everything at stake here late in the season, and they're giving them everything they've got before they ultimately lose. Too many of the other losses over the last week were the opposite of that. And so you're going to have a lot of eyeballs on them in the next week against Kansas City and Philly. Kansas City playing for a wild card spot. The AL wild card race is bananas right now, with a bunch of teams now fighting for a couple spots because the Tigers have just taken off. And then the Phillies series should be very much with a lot at stake because it looks like the Phillies and Dodgers are going down to the wire for home field advantage. And I think that's going to matter to the Phillies. So you're going to have eyeballs on that one. At the end of this week, no matter how many games they win, you want to at least be able to say, hey, they showed well. They played tough against these good teams. This is a team that looks motivated, that looks like it's going into the offseason feeling like they're ready to take that next step next year. And it's up to them to make that happen. If it goes the way this last week did, the feeling's going to be very different, and they're going to go into the offseason not feeling as good. I don't think it really matters in terms of whether it changes whether they have a chance at winning next year or not. But in terms of just like the feeling around a team going into the offseason, I do think this week is important.
8-12 are the Nats this September. Off, remember, struggling last September. Had the great August last season. Then September did not go so well this season. September, at least so far, not going well. We'll see what happens over these final 6 games. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on our website, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.